Maggie Driscoll will plot another fight back against Megan Walsh on Coronation Street next week, though she'll have a change of tactics this time around. Wanting the abuser to be brought to justice, Maggie continues the fight. The ITV soap has explored an issue-based storyline in recent months, with Will Driscoll, Maggie's grandson, being groomed by his athletics coach Megan. After weeks of secrecy, Megan's crimes eventually came to light. Though her true nature was exposed, Megan is yet to be formally charged with any crime, meaning that several Weatherfield residents will take matters into their own hands when it comes to justice. In the Driscoll family itself, Ben has come under fire by Ollie, who has criticized him for not protecting Will. Ben is visibly stressed and is consoled by Eva Price, with the scene being previewed in a new clip. In the teaser, which can be viewed below, Ben is abrupt with Eva upon his return home, and she tells him to not take his mood out on her. She also urges him to be kind to Ollie, as the whole family is in a difficult situation. As Ben laments the fact that the police are yet to do anything, Maggie can be seen listening in on the conversation. As Ben leaves, Maggie makes her next move and implores Eva to confront Megan herself. Eva says she didn't want to go behind her partner's back, though Maggie, who is no stranger to a touch of deceit, stresses that it was the exact thing to do. Eva looks torn, but it will soon become apparent that Maggie's words have an effect. In scenes that will take place after the teaser clip, Eva will enlist the support of Leanne and Toya Battersby, with the trio confronting Megan. Like the previous confrontation with Maggie, the latest scuffle ends in violence. Maggie advises Eva to face up to Megan herself before Ben does something he'll regret, and a scrappy Eva takes that very literally, teased our Weatherfield insider. This is a serious warning to Megan that she's messed with the wrong family. On the cobbles of Weatherfield, revenge never sleeps, and neither does Maggie. Ever since Megan found the courage to stand up to her, Maggie had been simmering beneath the surface, her pride bruised and her control slipping through her fingers. For years, she had been the one pulling strings, whispering poison into ears, and making sure everyone danced to her tune. But Megan had changed. She was no longer the frightened woman who second-guessed herself every time Maggie raised an eyebrow. Now, Megan was fighting back. And Maggie hated it. At first, Maggie had tried the obvious approach, sharp words, public humiliation, and those carefully timed little digs designed to make Megan look unstable. She'd cornered her outside the corner shop, dropped sly comments in the Rovers, and made sure everyone heard her version of events before Megan even had a chance to speak. But something unexpected happened. People stopped listening. Even worse, they started siding with Megan. Jenny gave Maggie a warning look the last time she tried causing a scene at the pub. Rita, never one to tolerate cruelty disguised as concern, bluntly told Maggie to leave the girl alone. Even Eileen, who normally stayed out of drama unless it directly affected her tea schedule, muttered that Maggie was a walking migraine. It stung. Maggie sat alone in her living room that evening, the silence heavier than usual. Her untouched cup of tea had gone cold on the side table as she stared out of the window toward the glowing streetlights of Coronation Street. She wasn't losing. She simply needed a new strategy. The next morning, Maggie appeared transformed. Gone was the icy glare and the clipped, venomous tone. Instead, she arrived at Roy's Rolls carrying a soft smile and a box of expensive-looking pastries. "She's either apologizing," Carla muttered to Lisa quietly, "or planning a murder." "Could be both," Lisa replied dryly. Maggie approached Megan with surprising gentleness. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice unusually soft. "Things between us have become unpleasant. I don't want that anymore." Megan froze, suspicious immediately. Maggie sighed dramatically. "Life's too short for grudges, love. I know I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect." Carla nearly choked on her coffee. Megan folded her arms. "What exactly are you after?" "Nothing," Maggie said, placing a hand over her heart like she deserved an award for sincerity. "I just want peace. It was convincing. Almost too convincing. Even Megan, who trusted Maggie about as far as she could throw Dev's shop, found herself momentarily unsettled. This wasn't the woman she knew. Maggie thrived on conflict. Which meant this kindness was far more dangerous. Later that day, Megan sat with Sarah in the cafe, replaying every word. "She's up to something," Megan said. Sarah nodded instantly. "Obviously. But what if she's genuinely trying to make amends?" Sarah gave her a look. "Megan. This is Maggie. If she offered me free wine, I'd still check if it was poisoned." Megan laughed despite herself, but the unease remained. Because Maggie's new tactic wasn't loud. It was quiet. Calculated. And terrifying. Over the next week, Maggie became the picture of generosity. She offered to help at community events, complimented people she normally criticized, and even brought flowers to Audrey just because. Unnatural. People noticed. "She's like a Bond villain pretending to be your aunt," David whispered. But slowly, against all logic, some people began softening toward her. That was Maggie's real plan. Not direct attack. Reputation repair. Because if she could make herself look like the reasonable one, then Megan would once again become the problem. And right on cue, the cracks began to show. When Maggie casually mentioned to Maria that Megan seemed under a lot of stress lately, it sounded like concern, not manipulation. When she told Sally she worried Megan was pushing people away, it felt compassionate. Every sentence was carefully designed. No accusations. Just suggestions. Seeds planted quietly. And seeds, Maggie knew, always grew. Megan noticed the shift almost immediately. People were kinder, but in that awkward, pitying way. They asked if she was okay too often. They exchanged glances when she walked away. She could feel it. Maggie was rewriting the story again. At the factory, Carla pulled Megan aside. "Before you explode, and I fully support exploding, just know people are talking." Megan exhaled sharply. "Of course they are." Carla leaned against the desk. "She's playing the long game. She's making you look paranoid while she stands there looking like Mother Teresa with better shoes." Megan rubbed her temples. "I'm so tired." "I know," Carla said softly. "That's the point. She wants you exhausted enough to make one mistake." And Maggie got her chance sooner than expected. It happened at the bistro. A charity fundraiser. Half the street was there. Cheap prosecco, awkward small talk, and Dev trying far too hard to be charming. Maggie arrived in a cream blazer, looking like innocence in human form. Megan saw her and immediately stiffened. "Don't," Sarah warned from beside her. "I'm not doing anything. Your face says otherwise." For most of the evening, Megan held it together. She smiled, made conversation, and ignored the way Maggie floated through the room like she owned everyone's forgiveness. Then she overheard it. Maggie, speaking quietly to Debbie near the bar. "I just worry she's becoming isolated. Sometimes people lash out when they're hurting." That was it. Months of manipulation, lies, and smug little victories crashed into one unbearable moment. Megan marched across the room. "You need to stop talking about me like I'm some tragic charity case." The room fell silent. Debbie stepped back immediately. "Smart woman." Maggie blinked, all wounded innocence. "Megan, I was only concerned." "No, you're never concerned. You control, you manipulate, and now you're pretending to be kind because people finally saw what you really are." Maggie's voice trembled just enough to deserve an Oscar. "I was trying to fix things." "You don't fix things, you break them." Heads turned. Conversations died. Even Nick stopped pretending to polish glasses. For one dangerous second, it looked like Maggie had won. She stood there, fragile and shocked, while Megan looked angry and emotional, the exact image Maggie had been carefully building. But then came the voice nobody expected. "Rita. Oh, give over." The entire room turned. Rita stepped forward, handbag in hand like a weapon of moral authority. "We all know what you're doing, Maggie. You've been stirring trouble on this street since before some of us had decent knees." A few people tried not to laugh. Rita continued. "You think putting on a soft voice and bringing croissants makes you a saint? Please. I've had yogurts older than your apology." Even Carla applauded. Maggie's mask slipped, just for a second. And everyone saw it. That flash of fury. That coldness. Gone was the sweet act. "There it is," Carla said smugly. Megan stood still, breathing hard, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone. Because people were finally seeing it. Really seeing it. Maggie looked around the room, realizing the performance had cracked. No one looked convinced anymore. No one looked fooled. She straightened her blazer, dignity hanging by a thread. "This street does love its drama," she said icily. Then she walked out. The door slammed behind her. Silence. Then Dev quietly said, "Well, anyone want dessert?" The room burst into relieved laughter. Later that night, Megan stood outside under the orange glow of the streetlights, the tension slowly leaving her shoulders. Carla joined her, handing over a takeaway coffee. "You survived." "Barely." "You did more than survive," Carla said. "You stopped letting her define the story." Megan looked down the street where Maggie had disappeared. "She'll be back." Carla smirked. "Of course she will. Villains always come back. It's practically in the contract." Megan laughed, and for the first time in weeks, it felt real. Because Maggie had changed tactics. She'd traded shouting for smiles, cruelty for fake kindness, war for whispers. But in the end, manipulation was still manipulation. And Megan had learned something important. Sometimes the strongest fight back isn't shouting louder. It's refusing to let someone else write your ending. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crown ST.